Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. This segment today is called Wicked Wednesday. If you didn't know, Wednesday is the new release for new comics that come out every week. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. I will also name one book to be the speculation pick of the week. Happy 2017, by the way. This channel is celebrating its 1-year anniversary on January 13th. I promised earlier last year that there would be prizes when I reach 500 members. I just eclipsed that, so there's news about that coming soon. 500 is a good start, but I want to have more like 500,000 members and be the #1 comic channel of its kind. I do the new Comic Day report, which others are doing, but I'm also doing comic speculation and investing and comic history and origins. Who's giving you all three other than me? Seriously. I recently just dropped the top 10 comics of 2016, gave you the print runs and the analysis on their investment. So welcome, longtime followers and newbies alike. Don't forget to subscribe and share these videos on social media so others can learn about the channel. All right, let's get started with the show. First up, the bat, DC Comics is giving us Batman number 14. This is the final issue in the I Am Suicide storyline. It has a new ongoing artist, Stephanie Hans. Welcome her to Batman. Next up is Cyborg number 8, where he breaks into Star Labs. I believe this character is hugely underrated. He'll get his due when the Justice League movie drops though. Next up is Harley Quinn number 11, and this is part 1 of a new story arc where the Joker shows up. And when Harley and the Joker get together, something psychotic is going to happen. There's also going to be a Frank Cho variant which wasn't available at the time I made this video. Here's a sample of some of his other Harley work here. Frank is probably my favorite artist in all the comics, so I'll be doing a special feature about him soon. Next up is Justice League vs. Suicide Squad, number 3 of a 6-part miniseries. You have the world's greatest heroes versus the worst supervillain scum you can imagine. It only makes sense they would battle. Next up from DC's Vertigo line is Unfollow number 15. If you're passing this over, you're missing a great one. It's the story of a dying social media billionaire who's leaving his fortune to 140 random characters. You probably need to get a trade paperback to catch up what's going on. It's worth it though. Next up, let's see what Marvel is up to. And that must be plenty of cocaine because they're giving us Deadpool the Duck. I don't know who asked for this, but they're giving it to us anyway. So you get the mashup of Howard the Duck and Deadpool. Oh, wow. Where do I start? I'll tell you what, I'll do a sidebar video on Howard the Duck later, so let's move on. Just stay away from Deadpool the Duck, please. Now, back on Earth. Marvel is giving us the Champions number 4. This splinter group consists completely of young former Avengers. They weren't happy with how the older seasoned Avengers ran things, so they started this group and they're trying to prove themselves. Next up is Hawkeye number 2. This version of Hawkeye is in the person of Kate Bishop. She made her debut in Young Avengers number 1 back in 2005. I'm very high on this character. I think you should be collecting her. This series is her first time that she gets to headline her own title. Next up is the Unstoppable Wasp number 1. The tagline says, Girl, Genius, Hero, Unstoppable. The movie variant shown here looks outstanding. If you can get this for cover price, this is the version I would get. The sequel to the Ant-Man movie will be titled Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's scheduled for July 6, 2018 premiere. Next up is US Avengers number 1. Marvel has a very clever gimmick to sell this. They're going to take 50 different covers for all 50 states of the Union and put a superhero on that specific cover. So any character that's ever been an Avenger at any time in their history will get to rock a cover on a specific state. I live in North Carolina, so my hero is going to be Namor. This is pretty cool. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First up is Underworld Blood Wars number 1 from Darkstorm Comics. This is a tie-in to the film franchise starring Kate Beckinsale. The movie drops in limited release on January 6th, and this comic is a one-shot and it's priced at $7. Next up is Heavy Metal Magazine number 284. There used to be a wide gap between the sci-fi adventure of the magazine format and the comic book format, which was dominated by superheroes, but that's been blurred now thanks to the British writers like Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, and Grant Morrison. Speaking of Grant Morrison, he's now the editor-in-chief at Heavy Metal Magazine, so the line between comics and sci-fi has been completely destroyed now, and that's for the better. Heavy Metal made its debut back in 1977 and blew people's minds way ahead of its time and looking like Lord of the Rings, Conan, and Isaac Asimov's I, Robot, and R-rated sci-fi short stories. Heavy Metal also predates Star Wars, and does it look like Star Wars is ripping off Heavy Metal a little bit? Well, Star Wars made its debut on May 25th, 1977, and heavy metal made its debut in April of 1977. So George Lucas gets a pass. He was already shooting Star Wars in 1976. It was probably just a coincidence. Heavy metal was so influential immediately that it was fast-tracked for source material for a 1981 movie of the same name, with comedy actors like John Candy, Eugene Levy, and Harold Ramis providing voice work for this R-rated animated movie. The movie had a female lead, which was very rare for its time, and very over-the-top sexuality in it, which has been spoofed by pop culture a lot, most famously by South Park in the episode Major Boobage, where Kenny gets high on cat pee and he transforms into the heavy metal universe. He stays animated the way he is, but they are animated correctly in the heavy metal way, with boobs everywhere. It's a huge satire. It's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. If you're under 35, you've probably never seen Heavy Metal, the movie. So when you're done watching this, go ahead and dig up this 1981 film. Okay, back on track. Next up is Box Office Poison, Color Comics #1 from IDW Comics. This is a story of comic books, love, sex, messy apartments, girlfriends, and lack thereof, an undisclosed past. This graphic novel was a Eisner winner. It's basically a funny introspective on life of being a nerd. Next up, let's see what Image Comics is up to. And that's going to be Saga #41. The winner of so many Eisner Awards, I've lost count at this point. You should already be reading this, but as an extra incentive, there may be some money to be made with issue 41. The issue came back from the printer and the cover is way too dark, so Image Comics released a recall advising retailers to send them back since some issues had already got out there. The recall cover looks like this, which you can see is very dark, and the normal color looks like this. The regular correct version is selling for cover price, obviously, and the recall version is going for about $7 on eBay right now. So not a lot of money, but a small flip if you want to get into this, and you can find one that's dark. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. And that's going to be The Walking Dead issue 162. This is the final part of the Whisperer War story arc. You got to give it up to The Walking Dead for its consistency. It's been coming out every month since 2003. The Walking Dead, the comic, is about 3 to 4 years ahead of The Walking Dead, the TV show. And the TV show is constantly using the comic as source material to keep it going with fresh material. Issue 162 also has an Arthur Adams variant, which has everyone's favorite villain, Negan, on it. He first appeared in The Walking Dead issue 100. The show keeps going strong. They'll get to the Whisper War story arc around season 10, which means you should get issue 157 through 162 and flip these in the future around the year 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. Personally, I'm betting on the Arthur Adams variants. Next up is The Wicked and the Divine, #25. It's the story of how the pagan gods of the past have returned and are inhabiting the bodies of young people to influence the public by becoming pop stars. Kind of reminds me of David Bowie doing his Ziggy Stardust phase. I would definitely recommend a trade paperback so you can catch up with this. Next up is Marry Me, #1 from King Spot Entertainment. This is the story of Stacia. She's a world-famous pop star who's so frustrated with her love life that she accepts the proposal of a random fan who has a Marry Me sign at one of her concerts. Hey, what could possibly go wrong here? I don't know about you, but I like that premise. I'll be picking this up. Could you imagine in real life like a pop star like Ariana Grande marrying some random fan? Last but not least is Faith #7. This book keeps proving the critics wrong because it's a heavy-set female lead character with her own successful title. In the world of comics where all the female characters look like they have unattainable bodies, she's one of the few every woman characters, which makes her very relatable, and the character is absolutely hilarious. She's very funny. So it's a much lighter read when you're ready for it. Faith made her first appearance in Harbinger #1 back in 1992, which is in the top 5 of one of the most expensive books of the 1990s on the back issue market. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I review all the new comic books for a new comic day. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.